All right, well, I'm going to do a whole bunch of videos on this topic, but so, don't be like, this is all I have to say about it, because I'm going to have some other things to say. On the topic of credibility, what does that mean exactly? Well, when I was a kid, I knew stuff, right? I was a psychic. I'd go up to the house or whatever and tell my mom, oh, they just had 8 puppies. And go in, and then they did. And my psychic abilities kind of freaked her out. I knew I'd counsel women. When I was 8 years old, I was counseling married women on their life. I didn't have no credibility as no mental health counselor, but I just knew stuff, right? And then, studying alternative medicine for decades, thousands of cures. I've seen people have miracle cures, energy healing, tons of plants, frequencies. There's all kinds of cures. And you try to tell people about it, and they're like, you ain't got no credibility, right? Because I don't have a white coat or a law degree. We'll get into that one in a minute. Doctor's degree. Well, meanwhile, the people in college and in high school that became doctors cheated off me, right? So when you're fighting corruption, if you have any sort of law degree or anything, they take it away. It's a little tangent there. So doctors give you their opinion, they cure nothing. I would talk about cures. I would read tons of documents, help people cure. I'm studying ancient medicine from, thousands of different documents, talking to people, seeing it in firsthand what it's doing to cure people. And then you got the yaps, like this mentality of this Theo Howard, this attorney in Port Townsend. Well, you don't have credibility. Okay, well, 1 and 1 is 2. Here's this herb. Here's what you do. Here's how you get cured. Okay, so a lot of people feel like that they believe in that they've switched realities. Like the sun used to be yellow, now it's white. A lot of people call it the Mandela effect. It's actually a reality shift. So if you've experienced any of those, it's not misremembering. There's tons of anatomy, tons of Bible changes. And, people could go, well, you don't have any credibility, right? If you've seen a UFO, no credibility. Seen a Bigfoot. I've seen a Bigfoot up close in person in Oregon. No credibility, no credibility. If I had a whole bunch of science degrees, would I have credibility? Well, we saw during the pandemic that meant that was not credible either. All that's credible is who the Hivemind says is credible, right? That's who's credible. I'd state all this case law and, all this proof and all this documents and evidence. Well, you're not credible. You don't have any law degree. You didn't go to law school. You didn't go to police school. You didn't no. But I studied a lot more than most of them that I knew. And so, forestry. I went to forestry school. Very credible forester. They taught us like 12 indicator plants on the forest floor, for what it would be in 100 years. Also, I studied hundreds of them and wrote a book about them, the medicinal plants and the every single plant in the forest, because it wasn't enough for me to just learn indicator plants. I wanted to learn more. Okay, well, then I signed up. I was supposed to get a master's degree in hydrology, but I quit and started my own forestry business. Then I started my own real estate company, started my own ranch. I worked for another forestry company for 1 summer, studied all the contracts. Then the next years after that, I got my own. It's about learning stuff, listening to your intuition, and it's not about credibility. And when I got into real estate, my first year, I sold 50 places. I got my broker's license, 17 agents, licensed in many states, because that was my passion. That's what I wanted to do. And it was so funny because I would be casual, right? So I know a bunch of stuff, right? And I'm helping people, make millions, right? We bought our ranch for $300,000, sold it for $2 million, because just of the rumor of a golf course is coming to town and the whole. Well, we won't get into real estate, but the point is that if I'm wearing a suit, I'm credible. If I'm wearing a sweatshirt, I'm not credible. If I'm telling you that arginine, which I sold for many years, because myself, I had angina bad, where I had plaque buildup in my arteries. So I did L-arginine and dissolved the artery plaque. And it increases your nitric oxide, all that. So if you wear a white coat and sell it, they're like, oh, I believe you. But if you wear a sweatshirt, you're like, hey, this, that. They're like, I don't believe you, right? Because you're not credible. So the people that believe that doctors are credible that just give opinions. And then tonight we just heard, oh, there's a asteroid. Now it's a moon. There's 2 moons, right? Science credibility tells you something, and then the next year they change it. And then the next year they change it. Reality shift. Okay. You are a divine sovereign individual. You don't need any credibility to exist. You don't need people like Port Townsend's Theo Howard and the Port Townsend government and the doctors and the health boards to give you credibility, okay? I know what I know. I'm very intuitive. I'm a psychic. I'm a healer. I know my God. I don't need to be credible for anybody, for any reason. I don't have to prove to you that I have a value to exist. I don't have to have a credible source for any of my healing information, as I've tried that route, right? And you saw during the pandemic, they don't care. You give them all the documents of the history of certain things, and they ignore it because they want to listen to their favorite politician who is credible to them, or their favorite news source on whatever channel they like because they're credible. Even if they've never studied the documents, never researched it, weren't necessarily even the scientists that they valued as credibility. So credible means, when people like Theo Howard say credible, they mean the people that I like, the people that I value. Okay, because if, like, witnesses to different cases and stuff, they have to be a credible witness. Okay, well, if the person's not a credible witness, so if they're homeless, they're not credible. And if they're a millionaire, they're credible, right? And by the way, I'd said this before, but in Port Townsend, I've met way more drug addicts, abusers, meth addicts, alcoholics that lived in homes than lived in the streets. Okay, so your value on credibility, Theo, and the hive mind that's associated with Theo is ridiculous. You think because you went to law school, you're smarter or more credible than me? Well, you're fucking dumb. Okay? You use a letter to the editor to talk about some woman that you didn't like instead of just setting the record straight and going on. I mean, what are you, like 30? You got your whole career ahead of you. You're going to be a local politician. You hooked up with the mayor. You're going to build these houses. You know, you're involved in it all. Why do you want to go low and just trash some woman you don't like? Why not? You know, it really showed your ignorance, but it also shows that what people believe in the word credibility. I mean, the local paper, I filed an ethics complaint. I could have filed an ethics complaint and said, oh my gosh, the mayor was mean to me in the street. And the paper's like, oh, you know what? The citizen reported something, so we're going to report it. And the whole town comes out and goes, well, she's not credible. Well, I don't have to be credible to ask a question. I don't have to be credible to say, hey, someone in the government did something. I don't have to be credible to file a criminal complaint, but here in Port Townsend you do, right? Sailor's Rescue thugs can go and go, she's got 6 heads and she forged a boat and she stole a bunch of gold stuff. And they're like, all right, let's drag her ass in and arrest her, right? That's credibility. I bring documents of facts, incident reports, 10 years worth of proof, piles of evidence. Oh, she's not credible because she don't know no politicians, and she's not sleeping with none of the people in the group that whatever. So she's not credible, right? But I bring the receipts and the facts. That's not credible. What's credible to them is who's sleeping with who knows who. Who Kennedy's going to not prosecute because, of the hive mind. Nothing to do with the law, nothing to do with facts. Their version of credibility is ridiculous, right? And they're calling the paper going, well, she's not credible. We'll just see what the New York Times said. And then the next week in the paper, they're like, the New York Times, they're not journalists and they're not credible. But what they said about that Crystal Cox, credible. She's a convicted swindler. Yeah. So, what is credible to you? Know yourself, know your God, find your own research. No political party, no government of man. Doctors don't have the last word. Doctors give opinions. Doctors don't know about your health. You can move to a reality where you don't have any disease. I've seen miracle cures. I've helped people to cure themselves. There's a cure for everything. Okay? What they're trying to convince you that you need to be credible, you don't. You're of value right now. You're credible right now. You matter right now, not just to me. You matter to people in your life. You matter to God. You matter to the big picture. You matter. And you don't need some jackass like Theo Howard to tell you whether or not you have credibility and you matter. And apparently there's been hundreds of people to call the Port Townsend leader that this Crystal Cox doesn't have credibility. So what? I don't need credibility. I'm a living, breathing human being. I have a right to call out the government. I have a right to ask questions. I don't need your approval. I don't need your validation. I don't need credibility. Just subjective, and there's actually no such thing. All right. Bye for now. Love you guys.